Brian J. Thomas Show.
Well, I've been having a little trouble, Lord, but I'm keeping it together.
Be the roads, of course. Trouble on the roads.
My baby just walked out the door. She said this time forever. It ain't the first time, baby.
Yeah, issue was a fund where they kept money from fundraising efforts such as raffles. That, in turn, was used to pay for things like picnic outings for volunteer firefighters and their families, as well as snacks for meetings. And then there was also, they were called out because they were buying water for the to put on the fire trucks. So, God forbid, firefighters are out there fighting a fire and they don't have any water. They basically, state auditor said, no, they got to pay for that out of their pocket. Are you kidding me? What's that, Ronnie?
Listener called in. He said he believes it was Morton, North Dakota, the fire department.
No, I thought it was Gwinner.
Yeah.
I think it was Gwinner. Anyway, this story just keeps getting crazier and crazier when it comes to our state auditor. And now there's legislation aimed at limiting what state auditor Josh Gallian's office can charge. See, that was the other thing. They were charged thousands of dollars. They could basically wipe out. These are volunteer fire departments. And remember back then I said, wait a minute. How can you charge this much for an audit? Thousands of dollars? What did you do? What did you do? It was absurd. Well, now, again, there's legislation aimed at limiting what state auditor Josh Gallian's office can charge for auditing local government entities. And it has become a battle between Gallian, the legislature, and now several local leaders. Rob Port's got the piece on it. He did a pretty in-depth piece, and he's not done. I talked to him today, and he said there's more to come. Gallian has accused lawmakers of corruption and made insinuations of backroom deals. You got local leaders who say the auditor's just out to get them. So Representative Emily O'Brien out of Grand Forks, Republican, sponsored House Bill 1508, which implements limits, when it comes to what this dude can do. She's trying to address the concerns of all these local leaders. She'll be on the program on Thursday. One of those folks involved is Ann Hafner, and she's the director of the Killdeer Area Ambulance Service, which covers nearly 1,000 square miles. They're out in Dunn, McKenzie, and Billings counties. That's, of course, out in western North Dakota. She told Rob Port that when Gallian's office dropped a $48,650 audit bill on our organization, it was almost ruinous for them financially. The cost of the audit wasn't the only problem. When it took place, the ambulance service was asking local voters to approve an increase in their mill levy. Hafner says the uncertainty of the audit created with the public, along with some leaks from Gallian's office, led to it being defeated. And to make ends meet, she said she had to cut staff, resulting in the loss of an advanced life support certification and diminishing the level of service she could provide. She also had to cut her salary. She even had to resort to using one of the ambulances as collateral for a loan. I mean, this is out of control. Good Lord. She says, I'm a paramedic. I want to get into an ambulance and help people, not fight the auditor because he's spreading lies about us. The Killdeer Area Ambulance Service was created back in 2005 and is funded in part by a $5 million property tax levy. They also receive state grants for personnel administered by the Department of Health. Among the findings in Gallian's audit was that while the ambulance service had been making timely filings with the Department of Health to receive its grants, they'd not been making an additional filing with the auditor's office that's required by law. Hafner says the auditor's office never notified them of the problem. Still, it was good information, she says, but that should not have cost us nearly $50,000. My God, man. Also joining us on a program is Tracy Dolzeal. I believe I'm pronouncing her name right. She's a president of the District Board of Directors. She served as Dunn County Auditor until December of 2022, when she assumed her newly elected seat as a Dunn County Commissioner. She joins us as well on the program. Ann, welcome to the Jay Thomas Show.
Thank you, Jay. Glad to be here.
You, Tracy, welcome to the program as well.
Thank you.
All right, so I don't even know where to start with this. It seems like, I mean, look, the auditor's got a job to do. I get that. I've had Josh in his program in the past when he first took this position. I can't remember what it was I had him on, but I was giving him kudos. Good job doing your job. But it seems now, gals, like this is just getting out of control. I mean, almost $50,000. And then we find out, on top of that, it's not just you folks, but you've got other places that have been audited. Greg's County. They had a private certified public accountant named Harold Rotunda who did the county's annual audits. They cost the county anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000. But when there was a delay in competing audits for 2018, 2019, Gallion's office informed the county they'd be taking over the audits. All of a sudden, the audit costs went up to $26,000. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, this is Tracy. The Dunn County audit that we have annually has cost us anywhere from $12,000 to $16,000 was the last one, an annual audit, for a county budget of roughly $70 million. So the $48,650 audit for our small service of, at the time, about a $1.2 million budget, that just seemed out of line. And that was 20% of our mill levy went for this audit fee.
This could have wiped you guys out, Ann.
For sure it could have. And I think what bothered me the most was when in about September or October, when we were just struggling, and that's when we got the lien on the ambulance because we couldn't make payroll. And we were the one face-to-face Zoom meeting I ever had with the auditors. They never came here even. We did everything online and in Zoom meetings to save us money. They told us it would save us money. But in October, when we were getting down to where I told them, they said, you got to pay us $11,000 this week, or we've stopped your audit process. We will not continue. We will do nothing else until you paid us $11,000. My CPA was at this meeting with us, and she said, guys, we've got $13,000 in the bank, and I've got payroll. And I asked them, tell me, which employee do you want me to lay off so I can pay you guys to finish this audit? And we were actually told the state doesn't fund the auditor's office, so we got to make our money somehow.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'm looking at this. You've got Gwinner that got nailed. You have Greg's County that got nailed. It's just unbelievable how all of a sudden the price of their audit went from $3,000 to $6,000 a year to $26,000. And the first thing that came to my mind was, okay, what the hell is going on here? Number one, where's this money going? And I found out, like you said, it goes to the state auditor's operating fund. And from what I've found out, that has increased by nearly 400% since Josh took over. Now, yes, there was some state funding tossed in there, or money coming from our lawmakers, but this stinks to high heaven, Ann and Tracy.
It does to me. I vote. I'm a voter. I'm a taxpayer in Dunn County. I'm a voter, and I voted for Josh Gallion a couple of cycles ago. I feel kind of betrayed, honestly.
Why do you think his office, well, it's he's in charge of it, so why is he going after, I mean, basically this almost $50,000 audit that they did on you folks, it was an audit to basically come back and say, well, there's some paperwork that you're not filling out, but we didn't, and then I find out that his office didn't even know that it was supposed to be filled out, correct?
As far as I can tell, yes.
What do you think's going on here?
Other than I can only go by what one of the auditor's employees told me, that they don't get enough money from the state, so they have to make their money somewhere, and they decided that they were going to make it on the backs of the taxpayers of Dunn County. Because, I own property in Dunn County. I pay my mill levy to support the ambulance service. I don't pay my mill levy to support the auditor's office. That comes out of my state taxes in another way. So, I don't appreciate the money that I pay as a taxpayer to provide ambulance care for my grandchildren to be used to support the state auditor's office.
I mean, when you read this article and talking to you ladies, you just sit here and go, and then you're saying you were actually told by one of the people that work for the auditor's office that they don't get enough money from the state, so it's going to come from the taxpayers on the backs of these small services. You know, a lot of these are volunteer. You're going to wipe these things out, then what happens?
Yeah, these fees are just counterproductive to what we try to do here. I mean, we're here to for our residents, for emergency care. The oil industry depends on us. The nursing home depends on us. The traveling public and tourists depend on this ambulance service being here, and to save nearly $50,000 of our mill levy paid by local taxpayers is going to the state auditor's office. It's just so counterproductive to what our mission is.
Yeah, again, the auditor's office, I get it. They have a job to do. You audit it and make sure that they're doing things right. And that's not even what I think people have an issue with, whether it's Gwinnett or Griggs County or even you folks out there in the Killdeer area, Dunn, McKenzie, and Billings County. That's not it. It's what they are doing when it comes to charging you folks for the audit. Again, how does an audit bill in Griggs County go from $3,000 to $6,000 up to $26,000? That right there stinks. And oh, by the way, folks, that person that did the auditing for Griggs County, it was a private certified public accountant. He did it, from what I understand, they did it for quite some time. And when Rob Port talked to Josh Gallion with the auditor's department, he told Rob that Rotunda's audits have been rejected as unreliable, even though Rob did research and searched the North Dakota auditor's website, indicates that Rotunda has completed numerous audits for various government entities in past years that were accepted by the auditor's office. Ultimately, Gallion's office tried to charge Griggs County about $36,000 for their audit services. Unbelievable. And I see Griggs, it looks like Griggs County says after the initial payment of $12,000, the county has refused to pay anymore. If you guys refuse to pay, what would happen?
I'll be honest. This is Ann again. I'll be honest with you, Jay. I was afraid to. We do our best to follow the rules and the laws and do what we're supposed to do, but we were desperate, and we were told if we didn't pay the $11,000, the second payment, which was $11,000, our audit was stopped and it wouldn't be resumed. That's literally what we were told. Now, in the Century Code, it says that if you have an independent audit done, you don't pay them until the auditor's office accepts your audit. But the auditor's office here was telling us, if you don't pay us $11,000 more, we're going to stop what we're doing right now. And until that audit was completed, we didn't have any idea that anybody would help us, that the county wasn't going to come through and save us if we couldn't give them that audit. I mean, everybody in our community was so up in arms because we were, quote unquote, under audit by the North Dakota Auditor's Office that until that audit showed that we hadn't done anything wrong, we were going to die. So
Wow.
we didn't really have a choice. We had no choice but to take our new ambulance that we got through a grant from an oil company down to First International Bank and Trust, who fortunately agreed to help us out and give us a line of credit on that ambulance so that we could pay the $11,000 to the auditor's office so that they would continue our audit.
I mean,
I was scared.
This to me sounds like just good old.
Into this audit, we needed to get it complete as soon as possible. One thing for us, we're fortunate that the Board of Commissioners at the time here in Dunn County did come through and help us so we could finish out the year and make payroll and go ahead and continue without cutting back service more. So,
Wow,
but Dan said we had to drop our service from advanced life support to basic life support with advanced life support capability, but but we did have to decrease our service level because of all this and the cost involved.
Okay, ladies, hang on. Let me grab a call here. Brian in Fargo, you're up on the Jay Thomas Show.
Hey, this sounds crooked as can be to me, and I have just a very quick question. Who audits the auditor?
Great question. That is well, it sounds to me like maybe the lawmakers are now going to start auditing the auditor. Am I right, ladies?
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm not certain about that, but yeah, you would think so.
Yeah, Brian, I'm with you. This I mean, this is just, to me, this sounds like good old fashioned, just good old fashioned, almost blackmail. Like, I hate to use the word, but I mean, you're threatening if you don't pay this. And again, I've had Josh on the program in the past when he first got into the office, because it's like, okay, good, this guy's getting the job done. But now it just sounds to me like, wow, you're going after these small entities and you're just drilling the money out of them to the point where they could end up shutting down and we could lose those services. So I don't. I see Josh is calling into the program. Fantastic. All right, ladies, Josh is calling into the program. Can you hang on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna put you gals on hold, and then when we come back, 701-293-9000. If you want to weigh in, emails are rolling in. Try to figure out what the hell's going on with the auditor's office here. How are you nailing somebody for almost $50,000? Give me a damn break. And if it's true that an employee said we don't get enough money from the state, so it's coming from the taxpayers, you're going to end up shutting down like the Gwinners of the world, the Griggs County of the world, the Dunn. I mean, this is crazy.
In a place where people would have to go hundreds of miles to reach a hospital with an ambulance, or
yeah. All right, to see State Auditor Josh Gillian's calling in. And I didn't reach out to him. He was going to be my call tomorrow because I've got State Representative Emily O'Brien's coming on Thursday. So I had these gals on today, but Josh is calling out. Fantastic. We'll hook back. Afternoon is Ann Hafner. She's the director of the Killdeer Area Ambulance Service. They cover nearly 1,000 square miles. They're in Dunn, McKenzie, and Billings counties out in western North Dakota. And the state auditor's office dropped a $48,650 audit bill on their organization, and it almost ruined them financially. And people are questioning it's not just her organization, but also I had the folks from Gwinner on here this summer. They got nailed with a big bill too. Griggs County, they got nailed, and everybody's questioning why are the look, the auditor's office, that's your job. Go out there, audit, the job done. But these bills are just, you got to question them. You have to question these bills. Why are these auditing bills so massive? So Ann joins us. Also joining us on the program is Tracy Dalziel. She is the president of the District Board of Directors. She served as Dunn County Auditor up until December this past year when she was assumed her newly elected seat as the Dunn County Commissioner. And also on the program, joining us, calling into the program, is the state auditor himself. Josh Gallion joins us on the program. Josh, welcome back to the Jay Thomas Show.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Mike, I was going to call you tomorrow morning, get you on, because I also have Representative Emily O'Brien. She's on Thursday. You're calling in the program. So what I'm going to ask is if there's back and forth, just one person talking at a time. Otherwise, it gets just too tough to understand what's going on. So, Josh, you're calling in. What do you say to all this, Josh?
Well, I just want to clarify some of the information. So the Killdeer Ambulance District, I just want to point out that we understand that this is a vital service to this community. Mm-hmm. If there's a problem with Killdeer Ambulance District, the nearest ambulance is going to be over an hour away. And so this is something that is, critical for the state of North Dakota. It's critical for that community. And what we want to see from the auditor's office is for this entity to continue to thrive. Now, we got contacted to come in because of financial concerns. The district was not preparing any financial statements, was not having any audits conducted, and there were some concerns that they had some issues. And to be honest, we came in and they were declining financially, and it was happening fast. And the word that we had is some of these counties weren't going to provide any additional assistance until these financial audits and these statements could be prepared and shown.
Okay, Ann, I'll let you respond to that as the director of the Killdeer Area Ambulance Service.
We have never been made aware of a complaint. That who made the complaint or what complaint was made, that we were having that there were any financial concerns. We prepared financial statements and sent to the North Dakota Department of Health as required by the North Dakota Department of Health, who licenses us and gives us makes us the beneficiaries of the funds designated from the legislature biannually for rural EMS services. We yearly provided a financial report and our budget to the Dunn County Commission. Mr. Gallion is correct. We were not providing the financial reports to the state auditor's office because we were unaware of that requirement, but we did provide a report that was accepted every single year to the North Dakota Department of Health. We have never been made aware of any financial concerns. Until right now, I was not aware that any counties had told anybody that they weren't going to give us the funds required by the Century Code because they had financial concerns with us. So whatever the financial concerns are, I completely understand if somebody reported that to the auditor's office, but we have never been made aware of those. We don't know who made them, and we don't know what those concerns are or what the accusations are.
Trace, you want to jump in?
Yeah, we were never aware of any financial concerns. I don't know who made that financial or that concern to the accusation to the state auditor's office because we didn't know here locally. Yes, we should have done the audit or audit every 2 years. We weren't aware of that requirement. And there's no excuse for that. We should have known. And as soon as we were notified that we needed to do an audit, we engaged with the state auditor's office to do that. But then this other concern or accusation going on is something we weren't aware of, but it did end up impacting us with our, we were asking for another $5 million increase to help support our service. Our $5 million that we, as a taxing entity, is only 20% of our budget is what we get, and it's critical. So we were going to ask for another $5 million from the voters of the Killdeer Area Ambulance District, and there was things starting to go out in public that were under state audit. I think people took it as a investigative audit, like something was done wrong, and so that really impacted us. $5 million just isn't enough to support a service as busy and the size that the area that we cover.
Josh, if they didn't, so if somebody filed I don't know if they filed a complaint, but were concerned about the financials, why was this organization then not notified of that?
What do you mean not notified? I mean, as she just stated, as soon as it was made, the auditor's office made aware that these audits were not being done, we reached out. We did send them an engagement letter. They accepted that engagement letter. We worked with the CPA firm that they use to help work with their reconciliations. They do some ledger work for them. Mm-hmm. But again, they don't do financial statements. And as you talk about this very large bill, keep in mind, this is for a 4-year period. That's as far back as we went, was the last 4 years. Over half of that cost was just trying to compile financial statements. So when they talk about financial reporting elsewhere, these are not financial statements. These are, financial statements are things that outside entities look at, whether it's county commission or even the citizens, to give a financial indication of the health of the entity. And so those do not exist until we came in and we helped prepare those. So we call those non-audit services. That's over half of that bill was just getting financial statements for that district. The manager from the auditor's office worked closely with Ann to make sure that we could get them this information. My understanding is the minute we could put those in her hand, she went to a county commission meeting and immediately they approved additional funding. And so from our perspective, we stepped in. We got their financial records put together to the best we could. Mm-hmm. Again, keep in mind that some of the records, we had to contact an employee that had quit, moved out of state. They had to find them. It took months to try to get these things located to a point where we could get financial statements compiled. But our goal was to try to get them back on track, back fiscally sound. And nowhere did anyone say that they thought the district is doing things inappropriately. The biggest issue that we heard was nobody knew the financial position or the status of really what was going on because they didn't have those financial statements. They did not have those audits going on. Our goal was to step in to get them back on the right track so that they could demonstrate their financial responsibility to the citizens, to the people that were concerned, so that hopefully they can get those additional funding. I don't doubt that they need additional funds. Our team looked at those records. They need more resources, and I would support them getting more resources. But you have to be able to demonstrate the financial position you're in before you can get people to get on board with that idea. And that's where we were called in, to try to help.
So what do you say to one of your folks in your office saying to these gals, hey, look, we don't get enough money from the state, so it's coming from the taxpayers when it comes to these audit prices?
Help me understand what you're referencing here. I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, that's what was that you, Ann, or Tracy that was told that?
We were both present at the Zoom meeting.
Yeah, what was said to you at the Zoom meeting?
We were told that there was an outstanding invoice from approximately 2 weeks prior to that for $11,000, and the work on our audit had been halted. It would not be resumed until we made the $11,000 payment.
That's correct. And then right after that, that's when we went ahead with the collateral on our ambulance in order to get the money to make that $11,000 payment so we could move the audit forward.
But didn't you tell me somebody told you that when it comes to the price of the audit, they told you that, hey, we're not getting enough money from the state, so it's coming from the taxpayers?
That is correct. We were told that in an October 14th Zoom meeting with our audit team when I was actually quite desperate and said, I don't have $11,000 to write you a check right now. If I did, I would. And we were told that they didn't make enough money or they weren't supported by the state, and this is why they had to do audits to make that money.
Is that true, Josh?
So to clarify, I think there's some misunderstanding here. So the local government team for the state of North Dakota, they operate by charging their costs for these audits. This money comes back in, and this is how this team covers their payroll, their operating costs. There is no state general funding behind this team. This is all special funds, and so they're out here trying to help improve government through these audits, through these non-audit services. And the fees that are generated, it's purely based on covering their costs. They don't make money on these. There's no profit built into these audits. And so for them to cover payroll and operating costs, yes, they do charge a fee.
So let me ask you this then. So because you guys, I believe the money goes into the state auditor's operating fund, if I'm not mistaken. That's
so
where the
we have
money
a special
goes.
Fund.
Yeah. So you get so the state gives you no funding. We have a state auditor's office, but the state won't give that office operating capital.
No, they don't. There's no general fund dollars that goes into the local government team, and the reason, in my opinion, the reason why we do this is because the state auditor's office, we only actually conduct about 15% of the local government audits out there, and so to subsidize the local government team would be to subsidize those fortunate 15%. The other 85% receive their audits from the private sector. So they're paying the CPA rate. For us, our average hourly rate based on all of our costs is about $110 an hour. Mm-hmm. The average hourly rate for the CPA firms out there is about $160 an hour. So they are considerably more expensive. So to provide that backdrop for the state auditor's office to essentially kind of subsidize that team with general fund would really only benefit about 15% of the local governments out there who receive those audits. And to me, that would make it very difficult.
Well, wait a minute here. Let's go to Griggs County, because Griggs County had a private certified accountant named Harold Rotunda. He did the county's annual audits, costing anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000. And then you guys took over and ended up being around $36,000. Why such a big difference? And they're refusing to pay.
And this one I'm a little hesitant to comment on, because this information now is out there publicly. This is still a confidential audit report. It's still in the draft phase, which the release of this report potentially violates state law.
Okay, understand that. I understand that. But hold on, though.
Cost breakdown.
Yep.
Same situation. More than half of the cost, because the Griggs County team did not prepare financial statements. They then engage us to prepare those financial statements. The audit cost is likely less than half of that. So if these entities would prepare their own financials, their audit costs would reduce drastically.
Well, then what is there? Okay, so back to Greg's private certified public accountant. This Harold that conducted those annual audits. Well, what wasn't he doing?
Again, we've got some issues there, so I'm a little hesitant to talk in depth on that. At this point, I'm still trying to understand I just found out that this stuff was released here this afternoon, which is a little bit of a problem for the auditor's office right now. But again, our focus is trying to make sure that we have good financials, transparent information, and that the citizens are aware of the financial health of their governments and how they're spending their money.
Okay, so again, you don't want to respond to that because it's ongoing. Okay, so let me ask you this then. Then why was it okay for an employee of your office to send an email out to one of the opponents of the mill levy increase and share it on Facebook? And that email claimed that the Killdeer Area Ambulance Service wasn't being responsive to requests for information for the audit. Why was that allowed to be released?
Well, what we were dealing with there, Jay, was they were asking, why is this taking so long? Because the audit we anticipated to be done, but because of that delay in that employee who was out of state, we had to track them down. We had to track down records. This process took months and months and months longer. I want to say it was probably 7 or 8 months, well beyond what we thought the end date would be. Mm-hmm. And so they were asking the status, and we just said, okay, we've had a delay in getting records. It was never meant to be negative against the district. The employee in our office was just trying to say, hey, we had some complications. We're trying to track these down. And I think that was probably taken out of context and used inappropriately. But we were trying to convey that we ran into some issues.
So what you're telling us is because again, you're finding problems, which is good. I mean, I've had you on the program, quite a while back when you first got this job, and giving you kudos. Look, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're out there auditing. I don't think people have a problem with that. I think the problem is coming down to what these entities are being charged for the audit, and I mean,
and costs. And Jake, you're right. Costs are going up across the board.
It's crazy.
And here's some of the data behind that. 5 to 7 years ago, we had almost 20 CPA firms operating in the state of North Dakota. Today, we're down to 11. We have CPA firms dropping clients consistently. We have a local firm here in Bismarck that dropped 16 counties. We have another CPA firm that just dropped 25 cities. They're not providing those services. And when you start losing those resources to provide those services that these local governments need, you have more cities and counties and schools and these districts going to these CPA firms. They're jacking up their rates. We're doing a petition audit right now for the city of Lincoln, right outside of Bismarck. The private firm that they were going to engage with to prepare their financial statements was going to be almost $50,000 to $60,000. That's just to prepare the financials. I mean, so we're seeing costs skyrocket, and that's why we're looking. I worked with Senator Jerry Klein. I worked with Representative Don Bigasaw. Senate Bill 2180 is going to address so many of these issues. This last session, we wanted to increase the threshold, or we did increase the threshold up to $750,000, meaning anybody below that would just have a review. Above that, an audit. We realized that moving that threshold was the right thing to do, but now looking back, we didn't go far enough.
So what you're
we need to move that up, and so we're saying $2 million
so
is the threshold below.
Okay, so we understand. So if that gets moved up, State Auditor Josh Gallion, that means that a situation like we have out here in the Killdeer Area Ambulance Service, they would not have had to pay almost a $50,000 a bill for an audit because they would not have gotten audited. They would have just got reviewed.
Off, that's 4 years. That's a 4-year audit. So, but yes, if they're under that $2 million threshold going forward, we have a process where it's called a small government review. It might cost them anywhere between $500 to $1,500 depending on what we're looking at. And so we have a lot more cost-effective approach to help these local municipalities reduce their burden on these audits. They're not only costly, but they're time-consuming and staff resources. Going to $2 million is going to take almost 100 entities off the list of requiring audits. They're going to go to our small government review process. So in the auditor's office, we are very aware of the situation and the issues that these local governments are facing. That is why 8 months ago, a year ago, I started engaging with the legislature to somehow come up with this new legislation to alleviate the burden, because here in the state of North Dakota, the path that we're on is not sustainable.
It's not.
We can't keep doing this.
No, it's not, because Ann, this about wiped you guys out, correct?
Yeah, and if I would like to ask Mr. Gallion a couple of things. First of all, I want to defend him, because in that October 14th Zoom meeting where we were told that we had that work had ceased on our audit and that we had to pay them or else, he was not present. I wanted to clarify that. He wasn't there. He wasn't at the meeting. Mm-hmm. He didn't know that was said, and he didn't say it. So I didn't want to come off like I'm accusing him of holding this up on purpose or of him trying to blackmail us or something. Okay? I want to make that clear.
Okay.
But he also is big on clarifying, and I would like to ask a clarifying question, because just in this interview, I've heard him say that Killdeer Ambulance was audited because of lack of reporting, because of no financial reports, because of complaints from other counties, because of complaints of financial concerns from an unnamed person, and because we filed the wrong kind of reports. And what we were told when we had our first call in January of last year, that I believe Mr. Gallion was part of that conference call, was that we had not been making our reports to the auditor's office and we were delinquent. That was why we thought we were doing this. We didn't know about all these other concerns. What's the actual reason that we were audited by the auditor's office?
So we had a concerned citizen contact us, a lack of financial records, delinquent. In fact, we had never received anything ever from the Killdeer Ambulance District. And in our experience, when we encounter those kind of situations, and I have some examples, we got called into the city of Max. They were very delinquent, years and years delinquent. Well, that city auditor's, I think, now under investigation criminally. And so when we have some of these delinquent situations and we get contacted, we try to step in to make sure that there aren't more serious issues going on. And so the lack of reporting, delinquency, combined with the concerned citizen, that's what brought the state auditor's office into this.
So may I ask why we were not informed that there was a complaint of a concerned citizen? And if I had a complaint about an organization I personally have financial concerns with an organization, I could just call the auditor's office and say, hey, I have significant concerns about this organization and I think they need to be audited, and the auditor's office could do that?
Well, we did contact the Killdeer Ambulance District. We have to have an engagement letter. We have to have all of the documentation. So there is communication that an audit is happening. They aren't just surprised. We don't just show up one day and say, "Oh, hey, welcome. We're here to audit you." There is communication. There are emails. We do reach out.
I agree.
So to say that it's a surprise.
I just want an answer to my question. Yeah, we were never told, and I've got the engagement letter, I have all the emails, we were never told that there was a complaint by a concerned citizen, who the citizen was, or that there were some kind of concerns. We were never informed of that. We knew nothing about that until we got the email that Dan Cox wrote to what we're assuming is a concerned citizen. We still haven't been notified by your office that you guys had concerns with our finances or that you think we have a lack of financial records. We have the financial records that we are required to have by the North Dakota Department of Health that licenses us. I agree with you. They probably are not what would make an auditor, professional auditor, or an accountant happy. But the state sends us the financial forms that they want, and we give them the report on the forms that they give us. We thought we were doing it right. What was the complaint? Who was it from?
So again, I don't have that information in front of me, but the lack of the reporting, the oversights, and the lack of audits, those are all requirements in Century Code. Now, one of the things that I'm also aware of is some of these districts out there, and this is something until recently it never even crossed my mind, but some of these districts were initially started as 501c3s. They're nonprofits. They had no mill levy, no taxing authority, meaning they were private organizations operating on donations or grants. Now, we are still working on completing our list in the auditor's office, and that might surprise somebody that we don't have a full, complete list. In fact, we have been working with Health Department, Human Services, Tax Department to try to better understand this. But these entities that may have started out as a 501c3 and have kind of converted into having a mill levy, that is what turned them into a local government under our jurisdiction. There may be others out there that have done that have never reported to our office, and we're going to continue working with them.
All right, guys, 4:35. Can you hang on? I got to get some news, weather, and some rotor reports out of the way. Can you folks hang on?
Definitely.
Okay, well, hold on. Let me see if I do this right so I don't kill all these lines here. Hold on, bear with me. Let's see. Boom, boom. I did it, Ronnie. I did it. I didn't lose anybody. How about that?
Small battles.
And my God, do I have emails. Holy smokes,
yeah, there's
man.
a few.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to all of them, but I will try. 701-293-9000. Voices you hear. Ann Hafner is the director of the Killdeer Area Ambulance Service. They handle Dunn, McKenzie, and Billings counties out in western North Dakota. Got an audit bill for almost $50,000, about wiped them out. And other organizations say, why are these bills so damn high? What is going on here? So she joins us also. Tracy Doziel, the president of the district board of directors, served as the Dunn County auditor until December. Now she's a newly elected Dunn County commissioner. She joins us. And that other voice here, well, that is North Dakota State Auditor Josh Gallion explaining why these bills, why this is happening. 701-293-9000, email studio, WDAYRadioNow.com, Jay Thomas Show. Josh Gallion is the North Dakota State Auditor with us, and also with us, Ann Hafner, the Director of the Killdeer Area Ambulance Service, and talking about these audits and the prices of them. Hey, Josh, we may have to carry this over to tomorrow, guys, if you got the time. I'm running out of time here. Josh, let me ask you this. So it seems like, and Ann, please jump in if you agree or disagree, but it seems like when these audits are done, whether it's Gwinner, Griggs County, out here in Dunn, McKenzie, Billings counties, it seems like we're hearing the same thing from all these entities, and that is, we didn't know. We didn't know. We thought we were doing everything right. It's the same story. So it seems like, and I'm not putting this on you, Josh, because you haven't been in the office that long, but it seems like there's been a lot of disconnect over the years between these, rural services and the auditor's office. Am I mistaken there?
Jay, I would say no, you're not. It seems like there's just the education piece out there is lacking. And that is something, again, in the auditor's office over the last couple of years, as we've done more and more of this, we recognize we are trying to put more and more material out there. We're trying to put more and more information out there. We are working on developing training materials. This last year, we started doing our first ever annual audit summit where we can invite these people in to learn. That's that's a huge area for us to try to improve upon, because yes, as we've talked to Gwinner, and they said, well, we didn't know we couldn't do this. Well, in some of those cases, I don't think it's appropriate to be buying firearms with public money, raffling them off, and then over a 5-year period spending $30,000 on alcohol. There's issues there that we should probably know that that's not something we should do with public monies. But the confusion that they had was they were commingling their money.
It was accounts. Yeah, it was accounts.
So they had their tax levy going into the same fund that they were putting their donations into. And the Constitution, Article 10, Section 12, it talks about public monies.
But
it says from any source. So the minute that entity takes possession of that, they're all public money.
But here's what has
the confusion.
But here's what has to be understood. Hold on, John. Here's and before I make my statement, and am I right in what I'm saying? There's just a lot of disconnect here. That folks think they're doing the right thing, but because they really. Here's the thing: a lot of these, and this, I'm not putting anybody down, but a lot of these are volunteer fire departments, services. These people that run these. They're not accountants. They're not tax. They're just people that are volunteering their time and have never been told how to properly do this. And where I'm going with this is I'm wondering, maybe I'm way out there, but maybe what there ought to be is there ought to be somebody in the Senate or the House. They got to do it quickly because it's almost crossover. Come up with a bill and say, look, there has been all this disconnect. These entities that have had to pay these huge auditing costs, and in some cases could have put them under. We're going to do a one-time thing where we are going to reimburse them for what they paid, and from this moment forward, there is going to be all this training. There's going to be this, and help these, because again, these aren't people that are doing bad things. These are people that just. They didn't know, and it seems to me that for years, the auditor's office, prior to you, Josh, coming in, just was not really, they dropped the ball, and now these entities such as Ann's and others, they're paying the price. Ann, am I wrong there?
I don't think you're wrong at all, and I want to explain to Mr. Gallion what our problem was. We very carefully followed the Century Code as it pertains to ambulance services, and it's all filed under the North Dakota Department of Health. All the ambulance services stuff is pretty much in the 3,000 range with the EMS things, and the requirement for the audit to be done is under the state auditor under Century Code 54-10. There's no reason I would even think to cruise the Century Code when I type in ambulance service or things that pertain to ambulance service. There's no way I would even know that was there.
Yeah, see, there's the problem right there.
I would agree with Ann. There is no cross-referencing in Century Code, and it makes it very difficult to find those connections. And so I completely understand her comments, and I do appreciate that issue. Is there a way to cross-reference those? Because when you go to our section of Century Code, we have 21 different local government entities that we're required to keep track of. There's over 2,000 local governments in North Dakota. It's a lot to keep your hands around.
So right there, these entities are paying the price because it sounds like our lawmakers dropped the ball. And these people should be made in
a code that they work in. Yes, there's nothing directing them back. Hey, you have an audit requirement on the state auditor's office, especially if you start becoming a tax levying entity. You are now a public entity once that happens, and so we do need to do a much better job in the state communicating that, Jay.
And I think the lawmakers, Ann and John, we lost Tracy and Josh. I think the lawmakers really need to look at this and make these entities whole, because again, the Anns of the world and the Jasons and others, they weren't doing anything, trying to be sneaky and slide this in. There's no cross-referencing. They don't understand it. Again, these are folks that are, they're not trained to be CPAs or learn tax or understand Century Code. They're like, hey, look, man, I'm giving my time because I want to help my community and make sure my community's safe. And now look at now we're in trouble. Now we're paying. I mean, honestly, the lawmakers need to say, look, we got to look at this and maybe, I know the state's tight on cash. Of course, I'm being, sarcastic. Come on, let's look at them and go, you know what, Killdeer, we're going to reimburse you that $50,000. Gwinner, we're going to reimburse you. Any other ones, we're going to reimburse you. You didn't do anything. Well, you did something wrong, but you didn't do it on purpose. You weren't trained in this. There's no cross referencing. We're going to do a one-time thing, make you whole. And then from this point on, this is how this is going to work. Guys, I'm out of time. So, yeah, you got to get about 30 seconds.
Real quick, Jay.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I've already started working with legislators on that very concept to try to help recover some of these. The problem is, they're trying to take it back out of my special operating funds, which hurts the local government team.
Why?
They need to take that money, take it out of the general funds, and help make these people whole. Don't hurt my people for doing their job.
I want to ask something real quick, Jay.
Yeah.
Jay, the $2,000 proposal that Mr. Gallion has to pay Killdeer back isn't going anywhere touch the $48,000 we had to pay out.
No.
I've seen the proposal, and it's ridiculous.
The law, this guy. Listen,
So,
I'm out of time. Josh, do you want to come back on tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Okay,
Tomorrow, let me know. I'd be happy to.
We'll get you on. And do you want to come back on, or have you said everything you need to say?
I'd be glad to come back on.
Okay, I'll get you both back on tomorrow. And then I've got Representative Emily O'Brien. She's on for it has to do with this, but I'm going to run this by her and go, come on, man. Make this right. This isn't the bad doing by these entities. Guys, appreciate the time. Let's plan. Let's go 3:00 tomorrow.